Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the center of the great hall. The room was huge, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. The walls were made of some kind of glowing metal that changed colors as he watched. Above him, a dome of crystal showed the stars outside. He was alone. Around him sat 12 different alien races, each one looking down at him from their high seats. Their eyes were cold and full of hate. Jake felt small in this place, but he kept his back straight and his face calm. The Zephyrians were the worst. They looked like tall blue people, but their skin was like glass and their eyes glowed white. Their leader, High Counselor Vexton, spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through ice. "Human," Vexton said, and the word came out like a curse. "Your people have been a problem for too long. You spread across the galaxy like a disease. You take planets that do not belong to you. You build colonies where you should not be." Jake said nothing. He had been told to listen first, speak second, but his hands wanted to make fists. A huge creature stood up from another seat. This was Gorthak, the war chief of the Drakmori. He was 8 feet tall and covered in thick gray skin. His arms were as big as tree trunks, and his face looked like it had been carved from stone with a dull knife. "Look at this weak thing," Gorthak said, pointing one massive finger at Jake. "This is what leads the human army. I have seen stronger babies in my own nest." The other aliens laughed. The sound was horrible. Some of them hissed like snakes. Others made clicking sounds with their teeth. The ethereal collective, who looked like floating jellyfish made of light, pulsed with bright colors that hurt too. "Look at. The human military is a joke," said another alien. This one looked like a giant spider with too many eyes. "They still use chemical rockets." "Chemical rockets. My people stopped using those 1,000 years ago." More laughter filled the hall. Jake felt heat rise in his cheeks, but he kept quiet. Vexton raised one crystal hand, and the room became silent. "We have brought you here, Admiral Morrison, to give you a choice. Your people can surrender now, or they can die later. It is that simple. What do you want?" Jake asked. His voice echoed in the huge room. "All human colonies outside your home system must be abandoned," Vexton said. "Your ships must return to Earth. Your people must stay there, forever. And if we refuse—" Gorthak laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. "Then we will destroy you. All of you. Every last human in the galaxy." "You have 72 hours, Vexton continued. "That is 3 of your Earth days. After that our fleets will move. We have 50,000 ships, Admiral. How many do you have?" Jake knew the answer. Everyone in the room knew the answer. 847, he said. The laughter started again, louder this time. One alien was laughing so hard it fell out of its chair. Another was making a sound like a dying animal. 800 ships against 50,000, Gorthak said, wiping tears from his eyes. "This will not be a war. This will be target practice." But not everyone was laughing. Jake noticed that some of the aliens looked uncomfortable. A few were whispering to each other. One race, the Qualari, had not said anything at all. They looked like tall, thin people with purple skin and 4 arms. Their leader was watching Jake with interest. "There is no shame in surrender," Vexton said, and for the first time, his voice sounded almost kind. "Your people are young. You have not learned the ways of the galaxy yet. Under our protection, you could grow. You could become something more than you are now." "Protection?" Jake asked. "Yes. We would take care of you, keep you safe, make sure you have everything you need, like pets." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Vexton's glowing eyes grew brighter. "You would be alive, Admiral. That is more than you will be if you choose to fight." Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked angry. Some looked amused. A few looked worried. He thought about Earth, about the colonies, about all the humans who were counting on him. "I need to send a message to my government," he said. "Of course," Vexton said. Captain Bennett, is it? Your aide may use our communication systems. Captain Lisa Bennett stepped forward from where she had been standing near the door. She was a small woman with short brown hair and quick, smart eyes. She had been quiet during the whole meeting, but Jake knew she had been listening to everything. Thank you, Lisa said to Vexton. Her voice was polite, but Jake could hear the steel underneath. 72 hours, Vexton said again. After that, we will come for you. All of you. The meeting was over. Jake and Lisa were led out of the great hall by guards who looked like walking suits of armor. As they walked down the long corridor, Jake could hear the aliens still talking behind them. Did you see his face when we told him the numbers? One of them was saying, 50,000 to 800. The humans are finished. I almost feel sorry for them. Almost when they reached their quarters, Lisa immediately started setting up the communication equipment. She worked fast, her fingers flying over the controls. Admiral, she said quietly, are you sure about this? We could recommend surrender. No one would blame us. Jake sat down heavily in a chair. He felt tired, older than his 53 years. How many people live in the colonies, Lisa? About 200 million, and they want us to abandon them, leave them to die. The aliens might not kill them. They might just take them as slaves. Jake looked at her. Would you want to live as a slave? Lisa's jaw tightened. No, sir. Then we fight. The communication system beeped. The connection to Earth was ready. Jake took a deep breath and pressed the button. This is Admiral Morrison, he said. I need to speak to President Carter immediately. We have a situation. While they waited for the connection, Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 50,000 alien ships were getting ready for war. 847 human ships were all that stood between them and Earth. The odds were impossible. The enemy was too strong. The aliens were right to laugh, but Jake Morrison smiled for the first time that day. The aliens had made one mistake. They thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn how wrong they were. President Helen Carter sat at the head of the long table in the White House War Room. The room was full of the most important people in the human government. Generals, admirals, scientists, and politicians all looked worried and tired. On the big screen at the front of the room, Admiral Morrison's face looked back at them from the alien station. He had just finished telling them about the meeting with the Galactic Council. So we have 3 days, President Carter said. She was a woman, in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been president for 6 years, but she had never faced anything like this. 3 days to what? Asked General Marcus Stone. He was a big man with white hair and scars on his hands from old battles. We can't fight 50,000 ships. With 800, it's suicide. We can't abandon the colonies either, said Admiral Morrison from the screen. 200 million people live out there. They're Americans, Marcus. There are people. Dead people if we fight, General Stone said. At least if we surrender, some of them might live. As slaves, Captain Bennett said. She was standing next to Admiral Morrison on the screen. The aliens made it clear. Humans would be pets at best. President Carter rubbed her temples. She had not slept in 20 hours. What are our options? Surrender, General Stone said immediately. It's the only smart choice. Fight and die, said Admiral Morrison. At least we go down fighting. There might be a third option, said a quiet voice from the corner of the room. Everyone turned to look at Dr. Ryan Phillips. He was a thin man, with messy brown hair and thick glasses. He looked like he had not slept in days. His clothes were wrinkled, and there were coffee stains on his shirt. What kind of option? President Carter asked. Dr. Phillips stood up slowly. His hands were shaking a little. I need to tell you about something. A project we've been working on for 15 years. It's called Project Hellfire. Never heard of it, General Stone said. It's classified above your level. Dr. Phillips said. Only 5 people in the government know about it. 6. Now that I'm telling President Carter. The president leaned forward. What is it? A weapon, Dr. Phillips said. The most powerful weapon ever created by human hands. But it comes with a price. What kind of price? Any ship that uses it will be destroyed. The weapon can only be fired once. And the side effects, he paused, looking sick. The side effects are permanent. Admiral Morrison leaned closer to his camera. How powerful are we talking about? Powerful enough to destroy entire fleets, Dr. Phillips said. Maybe powerful enough to destroy 50,000 ships. But like I said, there's a price. Tell us, President Carter said. Dr. Phillips walked to the front of the room. He pressed a button, and the screen changed to show a complex diagram. It looked like a maze of wires and metal. 15 years ago, we started working on artificial black holes, he said. Tiny ones, smaller than atoms. We learned how to make them, how to control them, how to keep them stable. Black holes, General Stone said. That's impossible. No, it's not. We've been doing it for years. The problem is containing them. A black hole wants to grow. It wants to eat everything around it. We use magnetic fields to keep them locked up, but those fields need enormous amounts of power. How much power? Admiral Morrison asked. About as much as a starship's reactor can produce, Dr. Phillips said. That's why we've never been able to use them as weapons. Until now. He pressed another button. The diagram changed to show a spaceship with strange devices attached to it. We've figured out how to turn our ships into delivery systems, he said. Each ship carries one contained black hole. When we release them all at the same time, in the same area of space, they merge. They become one big black hole. The room was quiet for a long moment. How big? President Carter asked. Big enough to swallow a fleet. Maybe several fleets. And our ships, gone. All of them. The crews, the ships, everything. The black hole doesn't care what side you're on. Captain Bennett spoke up from the screen. So it's a suicide mission. Yes, Dr. Phillips said, but it might be the only way to stop them. President Carter looked around the room. Every face was grim. How long would it take to set up? The devices are already built, Dr. Phillips said. We just need to install them on the ships. 2 days, maybe 3. That's cutting it close, Admiral Morrison said. We don't have a choice, the president said. How many ships would we need? All of them, Dr. Phillips said. Every single ship in the fleet. The more black holes we release, the bigger the final result. General Stone stood up. This is insane. We're talking about killing our entire fleet. The fleet is going to die. Anyway, Admiral Morrison said, at least this way, we take the enemy with us. Some of our ships might escape, Dr. Phillips said. If they're far enough away, when the black holes merge, they might be able to use the gravitational effects to boost their speed. It's possible, General Stone repeated. Not likely. President Carter was quiet for a long time. She stared at the diagram on the screen, thinking about 200 million colonists and the impossible choice in front of her. Ryan, she said finally. Are you sure this will work? The math says yes, he answered. But we've never tested it on this scale. We've never released more than one black hole at a time. What happens if it doesn't work? Then we die for nothing, and the aliens conquer Earth anyway. And if it does work, then we save the colonies and show the galaxy that humans are not to be messed with. The president looked at Admiral Morrison on the screen. Jake, it's your fleet, your decision. Admiral Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Captain Bennett. Lisa, what do you think? I think we're all going to die either way, she said. But if we do this, we die as humans. Free humans. That's good enough for me, Admiral Morrison said. He looked back at the camera. Madam President, I volunteer my fleet for Project Hellfire. I can't order you to do this, she said. You don't have to. We're volunteers. President Carter nodded, slowly. Then God help us all. Ryan, get your people to the fleet. Install those devices. Yes, ma'am. Jake, you need to make this look good. The aliens have to believe you're running scared. I can do that, Admiral Morrison said. How do we sell this to the crews? Captain Bennett asked. We tell them the truth, Admiral Morrison said. We tell them they're going to die, but they're going to die for something important. They're going to die to save their families. Will they do it? President Carter asked. They're human, Admiral Morrison said. Of course they'll do it. 2 days later, Dr. Phillips and his team finished installing the black hole devices on all 847 ships in the fleet. The devices were hidden inside the ship's hulls, disguised as normal equipment. Captain Bennett gathered the senior officers for a final briefing. Among them were Commander Alex Torres, the best pilot in the fleet, and Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, a tactical genius who had graduated first in her class. Everyone knows the plan, Bennett said. We run. We make it look like we're scared. We lead them into the trap. And then we die, Commander Torres said. He was a young man with dark hair and quick hands. He had never lost a fight in his fighter. Maybe, Bennett said. Some of us might make it out. The math says it's possible. I don't care about the math, said Lieutenant Sullivan. She was a small woman with red hair and green eyes. I care about the mission. We're going to hurt them so bad, they'll never forget. That's the spirit, Bennett said. Any questions? The room was quiet. Then let's go make history. The fleet began to move. 847 ships, carrying 847 black holes, and almost 1 million human beings who were ready to die for their people. The aliens were waiting. The alien fleets moved like a dark cloud across the stars. 50,000 ships of different shapes and sizes, all heading toward human space. At the front were the Drakmori dreadnoughts, huge ships that looked like flying mountains. Each one was 3 miles long and covered in weapons. Warchief Gorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher. Through the big windows, he could see the rest of his fleet spread out around him. 2,000 Drakmori ships, all ready for battle. How long until we reach the humans? Our scouts report that the human fleet is moving away from Earth. They appear to be running. Gorthak laughed, a sound like thunder. Of course they are running. They know they cannot win. Behind the Drakmori came the Ethereal Collective. Their ships looked like floating jellyfish made of light and metal. They could phase through solid matter, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Their leader, Mindsinger, Zelenoth, communicated with his fleet through thoughts instead of words. The Zephyrians brought up the rear. Their ships were made of the same crystal-like material as their bodies. They glowed with cold blue light, and their weapons could cut through any armor. Hi, Counselor Vexton commanded from his flagship, the Frozen Star. The humans are fleeing toward the outer rim, reported his communications officer. They are not fighting. Good, Vexton said. Perhaps they have finally learned wisdom. But something bothered him. The human formation was too organized for a panic retreat. Admiral Morrison's ships were staying together, maintaining perfect spacing. It looked almost planned. The human fleet was indeed running, but not in panic. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the New York, watching the alien ships follow them on the long-range sensors. They're taking the bait, Captain, Bennett said. She was watching the tactical display. All 50,000 ships are in pursuit. Good, Morrison said. How are our people holding up? Scared, but ready. The crews know what they're doing. Commander Torres was in the fighter bay, checking his ship one last time. His fighter was called the Wasp, and it was fast and deadly. Around him, other pilots were doing the same thing. Remember, Torres said to his squadron, we're not trying to win fights. We're trying to look weak, make them think we're desperate. That won't be hard, said his wingman, Captain Beth Rodriguez. She was a tough woman, with short black hair and steady hands. I feel pretty desperate right now. The chase began in earnest. The alien fleets spread out in pursuit formation, with the fastest ships in front. The Drakmori were heavy and slow, but they had the most firepower. The ethereal ships were fast but fragile. The Zephyrians were somewhere in between. 3 days. The human ships led them through system after system. Sometimes the aliens got close enough to shoot. The human ships would fire back, but not very well. They missed a lot of shots. They seemed confused and frightened. The humans are pathetic, Gorthek said after the second day. My youngest child could fight better than this. But the chase was not as easy as it looked. Lieutenant Sullivan was working 18 hours a day, calculating exactly where each human ship needed to be. The formation had to look scattered and desperate, but it also had to lead the aliens to the right place at the right time. Course correction in 30 seconds, she announced over the ship's communication system. Make it look accidental. The human ships wobbled and turned, as if they were having trouble with their navigation. The aliens laughed and moved closer. Commander Torres led his fighters in hit-and-run attacks. He would swoop in with his squadron, fire a few shots, then run away as fast as possible. Sometimes he would accidentally fly too close to an alien ship, as if he had made a mistake. Torres, you idiot, Captain Rodriguez said over the radio, playing her part. You nearly got us all killed. Sorry, Torres replied, sounding panicked. These controls are so confusing. The aliens heard the radio chatter and laughed. The humans were clearly out of their depth, but Torres was not making mistakes. Every attack was carefully planned. Every retreat was precisely timed. He was leading the aliens deeper into the trap, making them think they were winning. On the third day, something went wrong. A group of ethereal ships tried to phase through a human cruiser. The cruiser, the Boston, was supposed to dodge at the last second, but the captain waited too long. The ethereal ships appeared inside the Boston's hull. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. 300 humans died in an instant. Damn it, Admiral Morrison said, watching the Boston die on his screen. We're losing people too fast. It's working though, Captain Bennett said. Look at the formation. The alien fleets were bunching up, getting closer together as they chased the humans. They were excited, eager to finish the hunt. Exactly what the humans wanted. The Boston's sacrifice won't be wasted, Morrison said quietly. Captain Rodriguez was flying near the explosion when the Boston died. She saw the ship break apart, saw the escape pods launched into space. Most of them were destroyed by alien fire before they could get away. You monsters, she whispered. But she could not break formation. The mission was too important. The chase continued. The human fleet was down to 821 ships. They had lost 26 ships and over 6,000 people. But they were almost at the target location. Kepler 442 system, dead ahead, Lieutenant Sullivan announced. This is it. The Kepler 442 system was empty. No planets. No asteroids. No space stations. Just empty space around a small yellow star. The aliens were confused when the human ships stopped running and formed up in the middle of nowhere. Why are they stopping here? Gorthak asked his officers. There is nothing here. Maybe they are finally ready to surrender, one of his captains suggested. Or maybe they are finally ready to fight, said another. High Counselor Vexton was more worried. Something is wrong, he told his crew. The humans chose this place for a reason. What reason? Asked his second-in-command. I do not know, but I do not like it. The alien fleets slowed down as they approached the human formation. 50,000 ships surrounded 821 human ships. The humans were outnumbered 60-1. Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge, looking at the alien fleet surrounding them. They were so close now that he could see individual ships with his naked eyes. Drakmori dreadnoughts, ethereal lightships, Zephyrian crystal cruisers, and dozens of other alien designs. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he said into his communicator. "Today, we make history. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of." Across the fleet, almost 1 million human beings heard his words. They were scared, but they were ready. "Dr. Phillips," Morrison said to the scientist, who was standing nearby, "are your devices ready?" "All 821 black holes are stable and ready for release," Phillips said. His voice was shaking, but his hands were steady. "Captain Bennett," signaled the fleet, "prepare for Operation Hellfire." "Yes, sir." The human ships began to move. They formed a perfect sphere in the empty space, with each ship exactly where it needed to be. The aliens watched, confused by the sudden organization. "Now they decide to fight properly," Gorthak said. "Too late, humans. Too late." But High Counselor Vexton was studying the human formation with growing alarm. The ships were too perfectly placed. The spacing was too exact. This was not a battle formation. This was something else. "All ships pull back," he ordered. "Something is wrong." But his warning came too late. Admiral Morrison had already given the order that would change everything. "All ships," Morrison said calmly, "release the black holes." 821 magnetic containment fields shut down at exactly the same moment. 821 artificial black holes, each no bigger than an atom, suddenly found themselves free in the vacuum of space, and they were hungry. The first sign that something was wrong came from the ethereal collective ships. Their energy-sensitive equipment started screaming warnings. Mindsinger Zelenoth felt a cold fear touch his thoughts as his instruments detected massive gravitational distortions appearing throughout the human fleet. "What is happening?" he broadcast to the other alien commanders. "The humans are doing something impossible." High Counselor Vexton watched in horror as the human ships began to change. Their outer hulls were splitting apart, falling away like flower petals. Underneath, strange devices were revealed, complex machines that hurt to look at, surrounded by fields of twisted space. "By the frozen void," Vexton whispered, "they are not ships. They are weapons." War Chief Gorthak saw it too. His massive hands gripped the arms of his command chair hard enough to crack the metal. "What kind of weapons?" "I do not know," Vexton replied, "but we need to retreat. Now. Too late." The first black hole broke free from its magnetic prison aboard the human cruiser Chicago. It was tiny, smaller than a grain of sand, but it immediately began to grow. The Chicago's hull started to bend and stretch toward the invisible point of infinite gravity. Admiral Morrison watched his ship's hull buckle and twist. He had known this moment would come, but seeing it happen was different from thinking about it. The Chicago was being eaten alive. "All escape pods, launch now," Morrison ordered. "Everyone who can get out, get out." But even as he gave the order, he knew most of them would not make it. The black holes were growing fast, and their gravity was already too strong for the small escape pods to overcome. Captain Bennett was working frantically at her station. "Admiral, we've got black holes appearing all over the fleet. They're starting to merge. How long do we have?" "Maybe 5 minutes before they combine into one big hole. Maybe less." Morrison picked up his communicator. "All ships, this is your Admiral. It has been an honor to serve with you. Make your peace with whatever gods you believe in." Throughout the human fleet, men and women said goodbye to their families. They knew they would never see Earth again, never see their children grow up, never grow old together. But they also knew they were saving 200 million colonists from slavery. Commander Torres was in his fighter, racing away from the expanding gravity wells. His ship was fast, maybe fast enough to escape, but he was not running away. He was hurting the alien ships. "Come on, you ugly monsters," he said into his radio. "Follow me. Come closer." The alien fleets were starting to panic. The smart ones, like Vexton, were already trying to retreat. But the Drakmori were too slow, and the ethereal ships were caught between the growing black holes. "Retreat," Gorthak roared. "All ships, retreat." But retreat was not possible. The human ships had been perfectly placed to trap the alien fleets in the middle of the sphere. As the black holes grew and merged, they created a cage of gravity that nothing could escape. Captain Rodriguez was in her fighter, flying desperately toward the edge of the gravity field. Behind her, she could see the alien ships being pulled apart like toys. A massive Drakmori dreadnought, 3 miles long and armored like a fortress, was stretching like taffy as the black holes tore it apart. "Torres," she called on her radio. "Where are you?" "Here," Torres replied. His fighter appeared beside hers, both of them racing toward safety. "Stay with me. We can make it." But even as he said it, Torres knew it was not true. The gravity was too strong, pulling them back toward the center of the sphere. Their engines were at full power, but they were barely moving forward. The first merged black hole appeared near the center of the formation. 2 tiny black holes, each from a different human ship, touched each other and became one. The new black hole was bigger, hungrier, and it immediately began eating everything around it. Dr. Phillips was on the bridge of the New York watching his instruments with fascination and terror. "Admiral, the merging process is accelerating. Each time 2 black holes combine, the new one is stronger than the sum of its parts." "How is that possible?" Morrison asked. "I don't know," Phillips admitted. "This is beyond our models. We're in uncharted territory." The alien fleets were dying. The proud Drakmori dreadnoughts, each one a masterpiece of engineering, were being crushed like paper cups. The ethereal ships tried to phase through the gravity fields, but found that their technology did not work in the twisted space around the black holes. High Counselor Vexton managed to get his ship to the edge of the gravity field, but he could not escape. His beautiful crystal ship was cracking under the stress. Pieces of his hull were breaking off and flying toward the growing black hole. "Send a message to Nexus Prime," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them what the humans have done. Tell them they did not just build weapons. They weaponized space itself." "The communications array is damaged," the officer reported. "I cannot get a signal through." "Then we die in ignorance," Vexton said quietly. But not all the aliens were dying quietly. War Chief Gorthak was fighting back in the only way he knew. How? His ship's weapons were firing at the black holes, trying to destroy them with pure firepower. "Hit them with everything," he roared. "Plasma cannons, particle beams, fusion torpedoes. Destroy these cursed things." But the weapons had no effect. The black holes ate the energy and grew stronger. Every shot that hit them just made them bigger and more dangerous. "War Chief," one of his officers called. "The weapons are not working." "Then we die like warriors," Gorthak replied. "Keep firing." The second wave of mergers began. Dozens of black holes were combining now, creating larger and larger gravity wells. The space around the human fleet was becoming a maze of twisted physics, where up and down had no meaning, and time moved differently in different places. Lieutenant Sullivan was still at her post, somehow still calculating trajectories, even as her ship was being pulled apart. "Admiral, I'm reading massive gravitational waves. The black holes are resonating with each other." "What does that mean?" Morrison asked. "I think they're going to merge all at once. One big combination instead of many small ones. When? 30 seconds? Maybe less." Morrison looked around his bridge. Half of his officers were already dead, killed when part of the hull collapsed. The other half were still working, still trying to do their jobs, even as their ship died around them. "Has it been worth it?" Captain Bennett asked quietly. Morrison looked at the tactical display, showing the alien fleets being destroyed. 50,000 ships, reduced to scrap metal and radiation. The greatest armada in galactic history, defeated by 800 human ships and the power of artificial black holes. Yes, he said. It has been worth it. The final merger began. All the remaining black holes, scattered across several cubic miles of space, suddenly reached critical mass. They pulled toward each other with irresistible force, combining into one massive gravitational anomaly. The new black hole was the size of a small moon, but it weighed as much as a star. Its gravity was so strong that it bent light around it, making it look like a hole in space itself. Commander, Torres felt his fighter being pulled backward, toward the growing darkness. His engines were screaming at maximum power, but it was not enough. The black hole was too strong. Rodriguez, he called. Can you hear me? I'm here, she replied. Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. I can see it, Torres. The black hole. It's beautiful. Stay with me, Torres said. We can still make it out. But he knew they could not. The gravity was too strong, and they were too close. In a few seconds, they would cross the event horizon, the point of no return. After that, not even light could escape. Tell them we tried, Rodriguez said. Tell them we died free. I will, Torres promised, even though he knew he would not survive. To tell anyone anything. The black hole reached its final size. It was massive, angry, and hungry. It pulled in everything around it, alien ships, human ships, pieces of metal, clouds of gas, even light itself. In the space of 5 minutes, the greatest fleet in galactic history had been reduced to nothing. 50,000 ships, millions of aliens, and almost 1 million humans, all gone into the darkness. But the black hole was not finished. It was still growing, still eating, still hungry for more. The black hole had become a monster. It was the size of a small planet now, but it weighed more than some stars. Its gravity was so strong that it was pulling in light from nearby systems, creating a swirling disk of glowing matter around itself. Commander. Torres felt his fighter being stretched like rubber. His arms were getting longer, his legs were getting thinner. This was called spaghettification, and it meant he was about to die. But something strange was happening. Instead of being pulled into the black hole, he was being thrown away from it. What's happening? He managed to say into his radio. Gravitational slingshot. Came a voice he did not recognize. The black hole is so massive that it's bending space. Around it, we're being thrown out like rocks from a sling. Torres looked around and saw other ships, human ships being thrown away from the black hole at incredible speed. They were moving so fast that the stars were becoming streaks of light. Some of the ships were fighters like his. Others were escape pods that had somehow survived the destruction. Captain Rodriguez was in one of those escape pods. She had ejected from her fighter just before it was destroyed, and now she was flying through space faster than she had ever gone before. The black hole was behind her, shrinking as she moved away from it. Is anyone else out there? She called on her radio. This is Captain Martinez from the Detroit, came a reply. I count maybe 50 ships that made it out. Maybe 60. 60 ships out of 821. It was a miracle that anyone had survived at all. But the real miracle was what they had done. The alien fleets were gone. All of them. 50,000 ships, reduced to atoms and energy in the space of a few minutes. The greatest armada in galactic history had been destroyed by humans who were willing to die for their freedom. High Counselor Vexton had not died. His ship, the Frozen Star, had been at the very edge of the battle when the black holes merged. The gravitational waves had thrown him clear, just like the human survivors. But his ship was badly damaged, and most of his crew was dead. He sat in his command chair, staring at the black hole that had destroyed his fleet. It was beautiful and terrible, a wound in space itself. Around it, the twisted wreckage of alien ships glowed as they were torn apart by forces no living being should have to face. Communications, he said weakly. Can you reach Nexus Prime? Yes. Sir? His communications officer replied. The long-range array is damaged, but it still works. Send a message. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the humans are not what we thought they were. The message that reached Nexus Prime was simple, but shocking. The human fleet has been destroyed, but so has ours. All of it. 50,000 ships. Gone. The humans did not just fight us. They changed the rules of reality itself. They are not weak. They are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The surviving members of the Galactic Council received the message in stunned silence. How was it possible? How could 800 ships destroy 50,000? But the evidence was there. The black hole in the Kepler 442 system could be seen from dozens of star systems. It was a permanent reminder of what humans were capable of when they were pushed too far. Commander Torres and the other survivors made their way back to Earth. Slowly. Their ships were damaged, their crews were exhausted, and they had no idea what kind of reception they would get. They had disobeyed orders, destroyed their own fleet, and killed almost 1 million humans. But they had also saved the colonies, and shown the galaxy that humans were not to be messed with. When they reached Earth, they found crowds waiting for them. The whole planet was celebrating. The alien fleets were gone, the colonies were safe, and humanity had proven that it deserved its place among the stars. President Carter met with the survivors personally. She stood in the hangar bay as commander. Torres climbed out of his damaged fighter. He was tired, hurt, and covered in bandages, but he was alive. "Commander," she said, "report. Mission accomplished." "Madam President," Torres replied, "the alien fleets have been destroyed. The colonies are safe. And the cost? 821 ships. Almost 1 million good people. But they died free, and they died fighting." President Carter nodded. "They will be remembered, all of them." 6 months later, representatives from the surviving alien races came to Earth. They were not the same arrogant beings who had demanded humanity's surrender. They were humble, respectful, and very, very careful. High Counselor Vexton was among them. His crystal body was scarred from the battle, and his glowing eyes were dimmer than before. He walked carefully, as if he was afraid of breaking something. "President Carter," he said when they met, "I have come to apologize." "For what?" she asked. "For underestimating your species, for thinking you were weak, for not understanding what you were capable of. And what are we capable of?" Vexton was quiet for a long moment. "You are capable of anything. You do not just fight wars. You rewrite the laws of physics. You turn science into weapons. You make the impossible possible." "We do what we have to do," Carter replied. "We protect our people. Yes, we understand that now. We would like to propose a new relationship between our species." "What kind of relationship?" "Partnership. Alliance. We have much to learn from each other. But this time, we ask as equals, not as conquerors." The treaty was signed 3 days later. The Galactic Council was dissolved, and a new organization was formed in its place. The Galactic Federation was based on equality, not domination. Every species had a voice, and no species could be forced to do anything against its will. Humanity became a founding member of the Federation, and human colonies were recognized as independent and sovereign. The threat of slavery was gone forever, but the real victory was not the treaty. It was the respect that humanity had earned. The other species no longer saw humans as weak or primitive. They saw them as the species that had taken on impossible odds and won. They saw them as the people who had turned 800 ships into the most powerful weapon in galactic history. The story of the Battle of Kepler 442 spread throughout the galaxy. It became a legend, told on 1,000 worlds, in 100 different languages. The details changed with each telling, but the core message remained the same. Do not underestimate humanity. Years later, when alien children asked their parents about the war, they were told about the humans who had been willing to die for their freedom. They were told about Admiral Morrison, who had sacrificed his entire fleet to save his people. They were told about Commander Torres and Captain Rodriguez, who had flown into hell itself and somehow come back alive. And they were told about the black hole that still existed in the Kepler 442 system. A permanent reminder of what happened when you pushed humans too far. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was small, but it was not weak. It was outnumbered, but it was not helpless. And when it fought, it did not just fight to win. It fought to change the rules of the game itself. The smallest armada in galactic history had become the most feared, not through superior numbers or advanced technology, but through the uniquely human willingness to risk everything for freedom. The aliens had mocked them, called them weak, demanded their surrender. But in the end, it was the aliens who had surrendered, humbled by the species they had underestimated. Earth was safe. The colonies were free, and humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as servants or pets, but as equals who had earned their respect through courage, sacrifice, and the willingness to unleash hell itself when their survival was at stake. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never be the same.